Hello, today we're going to look at negative exponents. So negative exponents are a little weird, lots of kind of little rules we need to remember with them. Basically, all we need to know is that a negative exponent flips our fraction over or creates a reciprocal fraction. So if we think about 2 to the negative 3, we're just going to rewrite that as 1 over 2 to the third power. So if a negative exponent goes from the top of a fraction to the bottom, it becomes positive, and vice versa. So if it moves either from top or bottom, it's going to become the opposite sign, so positive or negative, depending on what it started with. So we'll look at a couple examples. So we're going to write each example using a positive exponent. So right now we have m to the negative 4. So think of it as m to the negative 4 over 1. So it's 1 over m to the 4th power. 3 to the negative 4 over 1, 1 over 3 to the 4th power. And m squared will be 1 over m squared. Now, if we're going the opposite way, same idea applies, okay? So for example, if we had 1 over m to the negative 2, that would become m squared. If we had 1 over x to the negative 5, it would become x to the 5th. So it doesn't matter which way it happens, if it goes from the top to the bottom or top to the bottom to the top, your exponent is going to become positive. Now let's look at these examples. So what we're doing here is we want to rewrite these expressions with an negative exponent other than negative 1. So we can't just use negative 1 to make it a fraction. So our first one already has an exponent. So this is a little bit like what we were just talking about. Since it's on the bottom, it's going to come to the top to become negative. So instead of 1 over, we're just going to have 4 to the negative 2. Now, here's where it gets a little bit trickier. So number 5 and number 6, you can see there's not already an exponent. So we need to take that denominator and figure out how we can rewrite that number, so 100, using an exponent. So now we got to know our squares and our cubes a little bit to be able to find this. But if we look at 100, we might notice 100 means equals 10 times 10, right? So 10 squared is equal to 100. So instead of 100, we can rewrite this as 10 squared. Now it has an exponent, right? So we can do what we did over here, 10 to the negative 2. And then now same thing, right? We don't have 125. So we need to know, can we find the square root of 125 or a cube root? So you got to use your calculator, right? Or multiplication chart and figure out what number works here. So 5 to the 3rd power is 125. So we could rewrite this as 1 over 5 to the 3rd power, which then would give us 5 to the negative 3. And these are the same thing. These all three are equivalent ways to write this value. So any way you wrote it, they mean the exact same thing. Right now, the same idea here, right? We can evaluate with our expressions again. So the a is negative 2. So that means negative 2 is going to be plugged in right there. So 4 times negative 2 to the negative 5th power. So now we don't like negative exponents, right? So we got to get rid of those. So our 4 is just going to stay on the top, and our negative 2 is going to go down to the bottom of our fraction, and our exponent is going to become positive. Now we can simplify all this. So 4 and then negative 2 to the 5th power, we can just calculate that, right? That's just a number. And it's going to be negative 32. And then, just like any fraction, right, we can simplify. So it looks like we can divide these both by 4. And I'm going to get 1 over 8, and it's negative. So negative 1/8. All right, go ahead and pause your video and try this one. So we got 16 r to the negative 3. 16 stays on top. Negative 4 to the third power. And then we can calculate that out. So we're going to get 16 over negative 64. Those are both divisible by 16 actually. So we can divide them both by 16 and jump right to our simplified answer of 1 over 4. Negative 1 over 4. Okay, so that's it for our lesson today. Kind of a lot of little confusing parts, so make sure if you're like, not quite getting it yet, go back and watch the video again. All right, good luck.